My parents stood in front of nearly 50 guests on their 50th wedding anniversary and announced a luxury family vacation. Everyone cheered. Everyone smiled. Then my father looked straight at me and said, "You're not coming." Before we continue, take a moment to subscribe to Tales by Laura, because these are the stories no one tells out loud, but everyone needs to hear. And as you listen, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. My name is Ariana Cole. I'm 34 years old. 3 weeks ago, my parents hosted their 50th wedding anniversary dinner at a country club outside Silverbrook, Maryland. Nearly 50 guests filled the room, church friends, former co-workers, neighbors who'd watched us grow up and assumed they knew our family. Midway through dessert, my father stood, tapped his glass, and announced with a proud smile, "We're taking the entire family to St. Lucia next week to celebrate again. Just us." The room erupted in applause. My younger sister laughed loudly, already clapping her hands. I smiled too, because for a moment, I believed that meant me. I pictured warm air, open water, a break from responsibility. My first real vacation in years. Then I asked one question. "What time is our flight?" My father stared at me like I'd spoken out of turn. My mother's smile stiffened, just slightly, but enough for me to notice. And in front of everyone, my father said, "You don't need those details, Ariana. You're not going." The room went quiet. My mother added calmly, as if explaining the obvious, "Someone has to stay back with the kids." Nearly 50 people watched in silence as my family publicly clarified my role. Not daughter. Not sister. Utility. What they didn't know, what none of them could have guessed, was that I had been quietly preparing for this moment for nearly 4 years. And that night, standing there in a navy dress I chose specifically not to stand out, I decided it was time to stop being invisible. To understand why that moment broke something open inside me, you need to understand the family I come from. The Cole family home sits on a pristine street in Silverbrook. 2 stories, brick exterior, manicured hedges, a 3-car driveway that always looks like it belongs in a magazine spread titled "We Did Everything Right." My father, Leonard Cole, retired 4 years ago after decades as a senior operations supervisor for a regional logistics firm. My mother, Denise, never held a paid job, but she runs the church auxiliary, manages neighborhood charity events, and treats our family image like a full-time career. Then there's my sister, Vanessa. She's 31, married to Trevor Miles, a corporate compliance attorney whose firm name she drops into conversations the way some people drop credentials. They have 2 children, Ethan, who's 6, and Layla, who just turned 4, and a luxury SUV that always gets the prime spot in my parents' driveway. My car, a 10-year-old sedan that's never once failed me, gets parked down the block. "Ariana, can you move your car?" my mother would say whenever I visited. "Trevor's driving in. It looks better if the driveway's clear." I always moved it. That's the thing about being the invisible one. You stop questioning the rules built specifically for you. The better seat goes to someone else. The praise follows someone louder. Introductions come with titles. For everyone but you. "This is my daughter Vanessa," my mother would say warmly. "She and her husband are doing very well." Then she'd gesture vaguely in my direction. "And this is Ariana. She helps out. I work as a remote financial records consultant. Steady contracts, flexible hours, nothing flashy. Respectable, but unimpressive by Cole family standards." What I never told them was what I did when no one was watching. If you want to understand what helping out really means in my family, picture every major holiday. Thanksgiving, I arrive before sunrise to prep food. I don't eat until everyone else is done. I wash dishes using the china I'm not allowed to use. Christmas, I wrap every gift my mother buys because her wrists act up, though they never seem to bother her during bridge nights. Birthday parties, I coordinate games, manage food allergies, clean afterward, and soothe meltdowns while Vanessa schedules spa appointments because motherhood is exhausting. Once, I asked if I could skip a gathering because I had a tight client deadline. My mother's voice turned cool. "Family comes first, Ariana. We all sacrifice." But somehow, I was the only one bleeding. The realization didn't hit me all at once. It came quietly, one evening, standing alone in my parents' kitchen, scrubbing an expensive pot after another dinner where I'd serve but never Saturday. I couldn't remember the last time anyone invited me anywhere without assigning me a role. 4 years earlier, my life had unraveled in a different way. I'd been in a long-term relationship, 5 years, with a man who eventually sat across from me and said, "I love you, but I don't see you anymore. You're just there." After he left, I wandered into a pawn shop downtown without knowing why. That's where I found the camera. A used Nikon DSLR, scuffed but functional, priced at $220. I bought it impulsively, money I shouldn't have spent. I told no one. That camera became my secret life. I started photographing people the world ignores, night cleaners, bus riders, street vendors, women waiting alone with stories etched into their faces. I called the project Unseen. I shared the images anonymously. No name. No face. Over 4 years, the page grew to nearly 18,000 followers. It was the only thing in my life that belonged solely to me. And the only person in my family who ever truly noticed me was my aunt, my mother's younger sister, Marsha. She lived hundreds of miles away, ran a small cafe with an art studio attached, and was often referred to as the one who wasted her potential. She was also the first person who ever told me, "You're not invisible." They just never learned how to look. 3 weeks before my parents' anniversary dinner, I received an email I nearly deleted. A gallery, in Northern California, interested in my work. I didn't reply immediately, because people like me weren't supposed to have lives that expanded. But that night, after my family made it clear exactly what they thought I was worth, I chose to answer. The email from the gallery sat unread for 2 days. I'd replied with a polite, measured message, thanking them for reaching out, asking for details, then immediately convinced myself it would go nowhere. That kind of opportunity didn't land in the laps of people like me. It was probably a mistake. Or spam. Or curiosity that would fade once they realized I was just another anonymous account. Meanwhile, life at home continued as if nothing had happened. The morning after the anniversary dinner, my phone buzzed before 8 a.m. A message from Vanessa. "I'm sending you the kids' schedules later today. Also, their food preferences have changed a bit. Not can we talk about last night? Not are you okay? Just logistics." I stayed at the screen for a long moment, then set the phone face down on my kitchen counter. My apartment was quiet. Too quiet for someone who had spent most of her life in other people's noise. One bedroom. Mismatched furniture. Second-hand bookshelf sagging slightly under the weight of old paperbacks and accounting manuals. My mother had once called it temporary living. I'd been there 6 years. That afternoon, I opened my closet and pulled out the camera from where I kept it wrapped in a faded scarf. I hadn't touched it since the dinner, not because I didn't want to, but because everything felt raw. Exposed. I checked the gallery email again. They wanted to see the full body of work. In person. They asked if I'd be willing to travel. Travel. The word landed differently now. That night, I called the only person who ever listened without interrupting, Aunt Marsha. She answered on the second ring. "Eri," she said softly. "I was wondering when you'd call." I told her everything. The announcement. The humiliation. The way nearly 50 people watched my family reduce me to childcare without flinching. I didn't cry. I just spoke. Calm. Precise. Like I was finally reading my own case file aloud. When I finished, there was silence on the line. Then she said, "Baby, they've been training you for free labor your whole life." Something loosened in my chest. "I got an email," I added. "From a gallery. They want to meet." She laughed, not mockingly, but with relief. "Of course they do. I've been waiting for this." "You knew." "I sent your work to someone I trust months ago," she admitted gently. "I didn't want to pressure you. But when they reached out to you directly, I knew the timing was right." I sat down hard on the edge of my bed. "They want me to come out there," I said. "To California." "You should," she replied immediately. "And if you do, you can stay with me." I hesitated. "I can't just disappear." "You already have," she said. "They just didn't notice until now." Over the next week, the demands intensified. Vanessa called twice a day. My mother left voicemails that sounded increasingly irritated. Ariana, we need to finalize plans. Ariana, stop being dramatic. Ariana, family doesn't abandon family. I said nothing. Instead, I started preparing. I requested my client files be transferred, quietly ended 2 long-term contracts, sold furniture I didn't need, packed things into boxes I labeled only with first names, as if that made it less real. At night, I edited photographs. Faces lined with years. Hands holding onto grocery bags, bus rails, memories. People who existed on the edges, seen only when necessary, forgotten immediately after. I saw myself in every frame. 2 days before my parents' trip, I drove to their house one last time. My mother was in the living room, folding resort clothes. Vanessa sat nearby scrolling reviews. My father read the paper like he always did, present in body, absent in responsibility. I won't be available, I said from the doorway. No one looked up at first. I'm leaving, I continued. Tomorrow. That did it. Vanessa's head snapped up. Leaving where? I have a work opportunity out west. My mother froze mid-fold. What kind of work? Professional, I said. Something I've been building for years. Years they'd never asked about. My father lowered the paper. You're choosing this over your family. I met his eyes. You already chose for me. The silence stretched. My mother spoke first. This is selfish. I nodded. It is. And it's necessary. Vanessa's voice wobbled. You can't do this to me. I'm not doing anything to you, I said quietly. I'm doing something for myself. That night, my phone filled with messages. Guilt. Fear. Threats disguised as concern. One text stopped me cold. You'll end up alone. Just like Marsha. I reread it once. Twice. Then I smiled. If alone meant free, if it meant waking up without being needed, pulled, assigned, then maybe that wasn't a warning. Maybe it was a roadmap. I turned my phone off. By dawn, my car was packed. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't leaving to help someone else. I was leaving to become someone I'd never been allowed to be. The drive west took 5 days. I didn't rush it. For years, my life had been dictated by other people's urgency. School pickups, dinner timelines, church schedules, birthday parties I organized but never enjoyed. This time, I moved at my own pace. I slept in roadside motels with flickering vacancy signs. Ate alone at diners where no one asked my name or expected me to perform. Somewhere in central Kansas, I pulled over just to watch the sky stretch wide and endless, pink bleeding into gold as the sun went down. I lifted my camera. The shutter clicked. It was the first photograph I took as someone who belonged only to herself. By the time I crossed into California, something inside me had softened. The air felt different, salted, open, forgiving. I rolled the window down and breathed deeply, letting the Pacific wind tangle my hair. I cried then, not from sadness, but from relief. Marsha's place sat on a quiet street in Linden Cove, a small coastal town that looked like it had been painted into existence. Storybook cottages, art studios tucked between cafes, fog rolling lazily through cypress trees. Her cafe, Clay and Coast, had a hand-lettered sign, blue shutters, and window boxes overflowing with lavender. The pottery studio occupied the back half, warm with kill heat and the earthy scent of clay. She was waiting on the porch when I arrived. You made it, she said, wrapping me in a hug that felt like permission. My room was upstairs, small, bright, with a desk by the window and a view of the ocean that made my chest ache. For the first time in years, I slept without setting an alarm. The next morning, I tied on a simple canvas apron and learned the rhythm of the cafe. Morning shift from 6 to noon. Pour-over coffee. Regulars who greeted Marsha by name. Tourists charmed by scones and handmade mugs. No one needed me. They just appreciated me. At noon, I counted my tips, $1.42, and laughed softly. I'd smiled more in 6 hours than I had in months. At 2:30 p.m., I walked 3 blocks to the gallery. Seabright Gallery didn't look intimidating. White walls, natural light, art display with care rather than ego. The man who greeted me wasn't what I'd imagined either. Caleb Warren had weathered skin, silver at his temples, and eyes that held curiosity instead of judgment. He shook my hand like we were equals. "Ariana Cole," he said. "Your aunt speaks highly of you, but the work speaks louder." He walked me through the space, stopping occasionally to comment on composition, light, restraint. He pulled up my portfolio on a large screen. "This one," he said, pausing on an image of a woman waiting alone at a bus stop. "This is why I reached out." "She waited 40 minutes, I said quietly. "No one offered help." Caleb nodded. "You notice people." Then he turned to me and said the words that changed everything. "I'd like to offer you a solo exhibition. 15 photographs. Opening in 6 weeks. Gallery covers production and promotion. I receive 55% of all sales." I sat there, sunlight pouring across the desk, my name printed in clean black font at the top of the contract. Artist, Ariana Cole. My hands shook, not from fear, but from recognition. I signed. While I was building something new, my family was unraveling without me. I didn't witness it firsthand. I heard fragments later, missed routines, forgotten medications, tantrums on beaches where no one remembered the special bucket or bedtime song. Text messages trickled in. "What's Layla's allergy again? Do you remember Ethan's sleep routine? Where do you keep the pediatrician's number?" I didn't respond. On the 4th day of their trip, Vanessa searched my name online. And for the first time, she found something worth noticing. 6 weeks later, I stood in the center of Seabright Gallery, barely recognizing my life. 15 photographs lined the walls, each one framed simply, confidently. Soft music floated through the room. Nearly 60 guests moved through the space. Artists, collectors, writers. People had come to see my work. I wore a deep green dress. My hair loose. My spine straight. Marsha pressed a champagne glass into my hand. "How do you feel?" "Terrified," I admitted. She nodded toward a photograph marked with a small red dot. "Someone already bought one. $2,750. I blinked. Caleb approached with a grin. "Ariana, there's a writer here from Harbor and Ink magazine. They want to interview you." That was when the door opened, and my past walked in. The moment Vanessa saw me, her face lit up with the kind of relief usually reserved for emergencies. "Ariana," she said loudly, arms already opening as she crossed the gallery floor. "There you are. We've been so worried about you." The music dipped for half a second. Conversation softened. Heads turned. I didn't move. She wrapped her arms around me anyway, clinging like we were long-lost sisters reunited after tragedy instead of two people who had spoken less than a dozen honest sentences in their adult lives. Behind her stood Trevor, phone in hand, scanning the room like he was evaluating square footage instead of walking into my first exhibition. "What is this place?" he asked. "Some kind of pop-up." "It's a gallery," I said evenly. "My opening." Vanessa finally pulled back and looked around. Really looked. The photographs. The price tags. The guests dressed with intention, not obligation. "You did all this?" she asked, genuinely confused. "I've been doing this," I replied. "For 4 years." Before she could respond, Marsha appeared at my side, calm and immovable. Caleb watched from across the room, alert but respectful. He didn't interfere. He trusted me to handle my own story. Vanessa leaned in, lowering her voice. "I'm pregnant again," she said. "I really need you to come home." There it was. Not "I'm proud of you." Not "I'm sorry." Need. I felt something settle inside me. Solid. Grounded. "I'm not coming back," I said. Her smile faltered. "We can talk about this later. After, whatever this is." "This is my life," I said, louder now. "And we're talking now." The room had gone quiet. I took a breath and stepped forward, right into the center of my own exhibition. "4 years," I said calmly. "I've been the one who adjusted, who stayed, who filled in. I was never asked what I wanted, only what I could provide." Vanessa shook her head. "That's not fair." I turned slightly and looked at Mrs. Linton, a collector who had just purchased one of my pieces. "She paid $3,100 for that photograph," I said. "Tonight, I've sold 6 pieces. This isn't a hobby." Trevor scoffed. "So what? Family helps family." Mrs. Linton spoke before I could. Family doesn't exploit talent and call it help, she said coolly. A murmur rippled through the crowd. That was when my parents arrived. My mother walked in like she owned the place. My father followed, already uncomfortable. This is unnecessary, my mother said sharply. You're embarrassing us. No, I replied. You're just not used to me speaking. I pulled out my phone. I wasn't going to do this, I said. But you left me no choice. I read the messages aloud. Calmly. Clearly. The words hung in the air like evidence. Free help. Nothing important to do. She should be grateful. Silence. My mother's face drained of color. My father stared at the floor. This is a misunderstanding, she tried. No, I said. This is clarity. I looked at all of them, my parents, my sister, her husband. I wasn't invisible because I lacked value, I said. I was invisible because it was convenient. No one argued. Applause broke out, not loud at first, but steady, real. Not for drama, for truth. My family left shortly after. Quietly. No final words. I didn't chase them. I turned back to my guests. To my work. To myself. For the first time, I felt seen. The gallery didn't erupt into chaos after my family left. It didn't fracture or buzz with gossip the way I'd imagined it might. Instead, it breathed. The music steadied. Conversations resumed. Quieter, more thoughtful. People lingered longer in front of the photographs, as if what they just witnessed had sharpened their ability to see. Caleb handed me a fresh glass of champagne. You handle that with grace, he said simply. Marsha slipped an arm around my shoulders. You didn't raise your voice once, she added. That's how you know you were standing in truth. By the end of the night, 8 of the 15 photographs had sold. The total came to just over $15,000. My share, 55%, was more money than I'd ever earned from anything that felt like me. I held the printed sales summary in my hands after the last guest left, the gallery quiet again, my name typed cleanly across the top. Not helper. Not aunt. Not available. Artist. Life didn't transform overnight. It settled. Mornings began before sunrise. Coffee brewing downstairs at Clay and Coast. The sound of the ocean threading through open windows. I worked the cafe from 6 to noon, then walked to my rented studio. Small, bright, just enough space to think. Afternoons belonged to my work. Editing. Printing. Planning. Caleb scheduled another show for the spring, this one centered on boundaries, on thresholds, on the quiet moments where people decide whether to stay or leave. The magazine feature came out in early fall. My face on the cover. A headline that read, The Woman Who Refused to Stay Invisible. Messages poured in. Women who'd always been the dependable one. The overlooked one. The one everyone assumed would stay. I thought I was selfish for wanting more. I didn't know leaving was allowed. You helped me breathe again. I answered when I could. Read every word. My family reached out too. Eventually, Vanessa texted after her baby was born. A girl. She sent a photo. I sent congratulations and a gift card. Nothing more. My mother called once. Left a voicemail asking if I'd gotten this phase out of my system yet. I deleted it. My father surprised me. His email was short. Ariana. I saw the article. I didn't understand before. I'm proud of you. I kept that one. Some evenings, I sit by the studio window and look out at the Pacific, my old camera on the shelf beside a newer one I bought with my own money. Both matter. One taught me how to see. The other reminds me that being seen doesn't require permission. I'm not rich. I'm not famous. But I wake up every day in a life that doesn't ask me to disappear so others can shine. My family and I exist differently now. Polite, distant, healthier than before. I may visit someday, but never again as the help. The other night, I found an old self-portrait on my hard drive, taken years ago in my cramped apartment back east. A woman staring into a mirror, shoulders slumped, eyes waiting for approval. I deleted it. That woman doesn't live here anymore. In her place is someone who takes up space, who creates, who says no without apology, who says yes only when it's his to give. This story isn't about revenge. It's about freedom. And sometimes, freedom doesn't come from being chosen. It comes from choosing yourself. If this story touched something personal for you, if you've ever been the one who was always needed but never truly seen, please take a second to like this video. It helps more stories like this reach the people who need them most. And don't forget to subscribe to Tales by Laura and turn on your notifications. Before you go, leave a comment and tell me, have you ever been treated like the reliable one in your family? And if you were standing in Ariana's place, would you have stayed, or would you have walked away? Some families don't break you with cruelty. They break you with expectation, with a quiet belief that your time belongs to them, that your dreams can wait, that your worth is measured by how useful you are. Ariana didn't leave in anger. She didn't scream. She left with clarity. And sometimes, that's the bravest kind of ending. Because walking away isn't abandonment. It's survival. This is Tales by Laura, where choosing yourself is never selfish, and being seen is always worth the risk. Until the next story, take care of yourself.